Hey everybody, obviously it's wintertime here in New England, but back in July I had the opportunity to talk to Bill Siemantel. If you don't know who Bill is, he's an elite level angler. He's also an elite level lure designer. Anything with the letter BBZ in front of it, Bill invented it. And so that includes the BBZ trout, the BBZ rat, the BBZ swim bait, and many others. And anytime I meet somebody like this, I always want to ask them what their favorite striped bass story is. Now, Bill's a California guy. He's a largemouth fisherman, but they got striped bass out there, and sure enough, he had a good striper story for us. But in addition to that, there was also some really cool takeaways from the story. He was talking a lot about suspended animation, how important that is with presentation. He's also talking about reading the attitude of the situation and letting that sort of dictate how you make your presentations. These are two things that I hold near and dear in my own fishing. So it's really cool to hear someone of his level talking about it and also hear his unique spin on it. Beyond that, he also talks about why he prefers mono over braid when fishing in this type of situation, which is something that I never even thought of. And I thought this was a really good midwinter video because it's going to inspire a lot of thought. It's going to inspire some pontification. And, you know, when anytime one of us watches a video like this, the biggest hope is that we come away with some little thing that might make us a little bit better. And I think you just might find that in this video. So check it out. So when I come to a show like this where there's a lot of pros, a lot of guys that I respect, I always want to ask them, you know, about their biggest striped bass, or maybe even just their biggest or most memorable saltwater experience. So I got Bill Siemantel here, and he's going to tell us all about one of the biggest stripers that he caught.
Yeah, and you know, this is, and guys, I hope you really understand this. We don't have a lot of saltwater stripers in our area, so we're inland freshwater stripers. So my biggest is 35 pounds, but the story was really incredible. So I had anglers, I was building big swim baits, and I had anglers out there like going, oh, you know, you're not building a strong enough hook, and you're not going to be able to catch big fish, and they don't work fast enough. So one day a buddy of mine called up and said, hey, Bill, they planted trout at local cast stake, and there's big stripers in there. And I said, okay, so I wanted to make a point, and this was the funniest thing ever. And I'll tell you, paying attention, and this is the biggest thing, and this is like for the fishermen and stuff, this is the stuff that separates anglers to just go fishing to the 1%, the guys that are at the top of their game. So we go out there, I took a brand new swim bait in a box. I walk out to the dam, there's literally 15 people on one side of me and 15 on the other, and they're throwing all these topwaters, and they're fishing baits, the fat, like topwater, you know, big spooks and everything, and they're big doll hair jigs, they're just ripping it, trying to get these monster stripers to go. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching them, and what happens is, and this is the biggest thing, is you have to look through the eyes of the fish. If the eyes of the fish are chasing and bait fish are moving fast, you want to mimic. It's not matching the hatch, but it's matching the action and the life.
The attitude, I always say.
Exactly. So if the trout are barely lethargic and they're just planted and they're barely moving, why would I burn them through the water?
100%.
So turn around and I take a bait out of a box. I tie it on with 25-pound test mono. And the key with this mono, with the seat, is when you put mono on a reel, I usually wet it, and this is a secret that I do, because I want mono to have memory, and it'll have coils. With these baits, with suspended animation and how slow they fall, you could actually make the baits, when you take the coils out and stop, the coils will actually make the bait swim by itself.
Interesting.
So you watch the coil like a spring. It tells you on fish that come up and hit a bait where you don't feel it, and you watch the coil rip, or it stretches. So I was throwing out, I tied it on, and everybody's watching me, and I had my hand down here like this, and I was doing this as fast as I could. I was never touching the bait. I was watching my line, and I was watching the coils, and when the coils finished, I'd grab the reel, and I'd tighten the coils, and I'd stop. So this bait was super slow suspended on the surface.
Nice.
The third cast, I stick a 35-pounder.
Nice.
I catch this fish, I back off the drag. For the stripers of us, usually if you force a fish, that fish fights harder. I ballet fish. The first hit on a striper, I make sure the hook's set, I back off the drag, I let him do a couple rolls, make sure it doesn't get a gill plate. Once they get lined up, I tighten up the drag a little bit, and I just let them play out. Fish going back and forth, got it in, everybody's flipped out, like it's one of the biggest fish anybody's seen. I put it on the shore, I throw back out, I do the same thing, I stick a 22-pounder. Nobody's caught a fish yet beside me, left or right. Well, this is the craziest thing. One guy out of 20 guys, there's a gentleman down, about 6 people down, and I was facing this way, and everybody thought I was going faster and faster, and he was watching me, and I looked up like this, and he goes, "You SOB." And he stopped, and he started mimicking me, and he started doing this with his bait, and I'm like this, and he ended up hooking up, but he ended up breaking off, okay? But he had like a 20-pounder on. Then I ended up catching another 12, so I had a 35, 22, and a 12 when no one else was catching fish. I never turned the handle more than 1 revolution in 5 seconds. And it was the speed and trying to mimic what the bait fish were doing at the time. That's what the stripers were keying in on. So
Fantastic.
I know you guys chase the mullet. When the mullet gets in close and they're taking off, you mimic that.
Absolutely.
But when the mullet are out there, they don't want attention. Sometimes your biggest fish will come on the most finessey technique possible, and that's the thing. So if I could say anything to anglers, slower, when they say slow, picture a fish compressing, coming up on a bait fish and taking it down without the bait fish knowing.
Yep.
Fish through the fish's eyes, and you're going to catch bigger fish. So that's my story. I'll put a picture up for you guys, but
thank you so much.
Man, don't overfish a bait.
Great stuff. Thanks, Bill.